Hello, everyone. My name is Russell. This is the Fallout from Dishonor podcast. It is Tuesday, October 19th, very early in the AM. Normally, I record this on either Sunday night, Monday morning. I don't know how many people listening to this follow my Twitter, but I had some issues this weekend. So the way things add into the fucking issues. Hold on. Fucking phone. Okay. I'm just going to put that down. Stop playing with it. I've been fairly frustrated these last few days. So the way things normally work is I'll try to watch AEW Dynamite on a normal week. Throughout the week, I work swing shift, so Smackdown when I do watch it and ROH get lumped in on Saturdays, and then pay-per-views kind of come and go. Rampage gets thrown in there. So what happened is I came home on Friday night, and the only place that Xfinity was working in the house was in the main room, and it wasn't really working that well there. The rest of the TVs were hooked up to an Xfinity app, which has not worked since last Wednesday, I believe. We went and got boxes to put in the rooms, and the bedroom, the box still isn't working. I fear that the cable outlet that it plugs into is not hooked up properly. Maybe there needs to be a splitter put on the outside of the house. Anyway, so long story short, you would think everything would be fine and I'd be able to watch it in the main room, but for some reason the DVR has been fucking screwy too. So I usually DVR all this stuff throughout the week, and it just didn't. I don't know if it wasn't working right, what the hell is going on. You could use that excuse for Dynamite. The problem with that is that it didn't really do Smackdown properly. It definitely didn't do Ring of Honor properly. So here's where I am at as far as what I've been able to watch. Thanks to Ring of Honor throwing their ROH TV up on their website every Monday, I have now watched that. Through the TNT website, I've been able to watch Rampage. I've watched some of Dynamite. I'm not going to get into Dynamite this week just because I haven't watched the whole thing in its entirety. I've watched Smackdown. I have some stuff to say about that, not a lot. And that's pretty much where I sit. So, again, that pretty much leaves Dynamite. Sorry if I seem a little bit bitter during this review. I'm just so goddamn irritated with Xfinity right now. This has been a train wreck all weekend. I had some notes to read about a little bit of news that happened last weekend. It doesn't really make much sense to read all of it anymore. So I'm kind of starting from scratch today. Everyone's been talking about the ratings battle between Rampage and Smackdown. So we're going to get into that. So the figures keep... Well, okay, let's back up here. So Tony Khan on Twitter on October the 8th tweeted out, I saw you're doing a half hour. This is directed at WWE. I saw you're doing a half hour head to head with us. I can't wait to finally beat your main show head to head. It's been a long time coming. See you next Friday. And there was some hashtags and whatnot. Now that was October the 8th. So that was a week from Monday. Yeah. It was a week. It was backed up a week from yesterday. Sorry, I'm in a weird headspace right now. And so throughout the week last week, after that statement, he backed off a little bit, kind of started joking around a little bit. I've got his Twitter feed on my phone. I'm not going to look at it right now, but he was wishy-washy throughout the rest of the week. So there was some preliminary ratings over the weekend, but I thought I would go ahead and read what I have. Now, I'm not a ratings guy. I know that there's been a little bit of controversy over at one point, supposedly AEW had beat Smackdown in a key demo, and then they had tied them. So I don't know how that's going. I'm going to go ahead and wait until next week on the podcast to comment on that, because I don't know. Okay, so I got this information from the Pro Wrestling Torch website. Wade Keller was the one that wrote the article. Either wrote the article or it's the audio that was just... Anyway, I'm not quoting this verbatim, so my apologies again. I'm fucking exhausted. I'm actually kind of thrilled to be back at work this week. That's how fucked up the weekend was. But so according to the Pro Wrestling Torch, and it's the Torch, so I'm fairly certain they're getting these from a credible source. But this past weekend, so Smackdown, as a lot of you already know, was preempted by baseball playoffs, I believe. I'm not a big baseball fan. So it was on FS1. This past Friday, as of Monday, it is very early Tuesday morning, so there wouldn't be any information that would change this. Smackdown did 866,000 views. Now, that's obviously way down from last week. According to the info that I have, they did 2.2 million. You can't really compare the two because FS1, I'm not exactly sure the difference, but not only is FS1 available in less households, but obviously a lot of fans would expect it to be on Fox, even though they usually advertise the hell out of this stuff. People still tune in, expect it to be there, and it's not, and they either watch the baseball game or they move on. Plus, I'm sure you would think Rampage and Smackdown would have both taken a hit from the baseball game itself. I don't know about that. AEW's numbers don't really reflect that. Important note that was in the post on the Pro Wrestling Torch, since it's not really fair to compare those numbers to last week's Fox numbers, they did pull up the last October, that they were preempted, and that number was 881,000. So they, compared to that number, they dipped just a little bit, but not really in any noticeable way. Rampage last week did, it would be last week. This past Friday did 578,000. This is actually up from the previous week of 502,000. So it is fair to compare those numbers. This is the first time Rampage has actually improved their ratings since the week after the Punk debut. The number was comparable to Dynamite. I think it was 1.2 million, somewhere in that neighborhood. And it's just been slowly going down since the Punk debut, which I was super excited for, like everyone else. So there was that. Now, as I mentioned, there's been some controversy. I believe I didn't write any notes about it. There seems to be a little bit confusion. I think it was the 18 to 34 demo that AEW may have beat SmackDown in, the one they've been making. AEW has made a big deal about that and the 18 to 49 male demo. I don't really follow the demos all that much. I can see caring about the regular ratings. As far as the demos go, I'm not a TV producer, and I don't work behind the scenes with any of these companies, so I could give a flying fuck about the demos, to be perfectly honest. Maybe you guys do, and that's perfectly fine. I just don't. So, from there, we might as well get into this. This Thursday is the Crown Jewel pay-per-view from WWE is afraid to say it, so I will. Saudi Arabia. I will give them credit. This is actually... Most of their Saudi Arabia pay-per-views come off relatively lazy. This one, on paper at least, is looking to be pretty good. I thought it was going to be a little bit better, and I'll get into that. While I'm reading through this, I might as well do predictions. Why the hell not? I don't have a lot in the way of news, and I don't have a ton in the way of wrestling reviews either. When I get to the shows that I do have and I did watch, it's going to be more of a run through with results and just a quick what I thought of it. It's not going to be anything like super in depth. So we might as well do Crown Jewel predictions. So I pulled these off of the WWE website. I don't know how complete this card is. It is early Tuesday morning. They don't have a lot of time to announce very much more. I did notice that they actually have 2 women's matches this year. That might be the first time they do this in Saudi Arabia, assuming everything goes to plan. Saudi Arabia sometimes has a really big habit of not exactly going the way that it's supposed to, between, 2 old guys barely being able to wrestle and almost killing themselves. Maybe supposedly getting held up in Saudi Arabia for hours on a plane. Things happen over there. But, so, the card. So, first that I have on the list, again, these are in no real particular order, except that the Universal title I have last, since I assume that's probably going to be going on last. I know that WWE likes to promote equality, but let's be perfectly honest, I sincerely doubt that the Smackdown Women's Championship match is going to go on last. So first what I have is the King of the Ring, Finn Balor, and Xavier Woods. So this one's a little difficult for me. I'm a big Finn Balor fan. I also know that Xavier Woods has wanted to be King of the Ring for a long time. WWE doesn't always have a habit of necessarily going the way their wrestlers want to, or even their fans want to. But looking at this on paper, who I want to win and who I think is going to win are 2 different things. I want Finn Balor to win. I know my girlfriend would love for Finn Balor to win. He's her favorite, the Demon King. I think WWE is going to pull a rarity, and I think that we're going to get Xavier Woods as the King of the Ring. We'll see if I eat my words there. Next, this match kind of pisses me off. The Queen of the Ring, Doudrop versus Selena Vega. So, unfortunately, I don't have a dog in this fight. When this card was originally announced, the bracket, I should say, for both tournaments, actually, I was a little confused until I thought about it for a little while. And the King of the Ring often has been used, or at least back in the day, it was used as a platform to boost someone's stock that needed it. The original King of the Ring pay-per-view, Bret Hart won. That might not necessarily be the best example, since going into the King of the Ring, he was actually coming off of losing the WWE title from Yokozuna. There's rumors because of the whole Hulk Hogan stuff, and he was supposedly supposed to wrestle Hulk Hogan, I think at SummerSlam, that might have been Bret's consolation prize. But as far as the pay-per-view goes, and don't misunderstand me, he is not the first WWE King of the Ring. I'm having a brain fart. later someday I'll go back and go over that. Maybe we'll have another King of the Ring pay-per-view, and I'll be able to go back to that in its entirety. Maybe I'll do a King of the Ring special. Yeah, maybe I'll do that someday. Anyway, we got sidetracked there. So it's used as a platform. The following year, 95, Owen Hart won. 96 was Austin. 97 was Triple H. No. 96 was Mabel. 97 was Austin. 98 was Triple H. 99 was Billy Gunn. Then we got Kurt Angle. Then we got Edge. And then we got Brock Lesnar. I'm fairly certain that was the order. So, obviously, there's a couple. That might not be the right order. I do know that those were the guys in that group of pay-per-views. So, obviously, you're looking at those names. Mabel and Billy Gunn didn't exactly light the world on fire. I don't know really how much they tried to do with Billy Gunn after he won. They tried with Mabel, and it just didn't work. So anyway, I rambled on there for like 5 minutes, but the King of the Ring and now the Queen of the Ring, the history of the King of the Ring is it's used as a platform to get someone up. So when it comes to the Queen of the Ring, when I saw the bracket, my eyes immediately went to Shayna Baszler. I don't really watch Raw. I look at it as more of a punishment than anything else. But if you did, you know that Doudrop got the W against Shayna Baszler. I'm a little disappointed in that. So with that said, I don't have a dog in this fight, but I rambled about all that and lost my train of thought to tell you that the King of the Ring has been used as a launching pad to push people up to that next level, which is one of the reasons I'm picking Xavier Woods for the men's side. And for the women's side, I think it only makes sense for Doudrop. I like Zelina Vega just fine. They haven't really done anything with her since she came back. I'm surprised she's even gotten a few wins in this tournament, but I don't see that changing. Next up, Mansour versus Mustafa Ali. Mansour has been their golden boy. I don't see that changing a ton here. They don't. In the recent last year or so, they have been using him a little more. Before, they were just pulling him out specifically for these pay-per-views. I see him getting the W. WWE Raw tag titles, RK Bro versus AJ and Almost. I don't know the entire storyline going up to this. So the last I remember, it seemed like there was a teeny bit of dissension in the ranks with AJ and Almost. RK Bro is not a team that's going to stay together forever. However, from what I've seen, they seem to be getting along. Internet trolls, if I'm wrong there, I don't watch Raw on the regular. I do know that they beat the Street Profits, I believe, last night on Raw. Or at least walked away with the tag titles. I see RK Bro retaining here. Next up, Edge and Seth Rollins in the Hell in a Cell match. This, while I don't necessarily agree with some of the build-up to this match, this is a Hell in a Cell done right. This is now a grudge match. So, obviously, you can go one of two ways here. You can have Edge win. You can have Seth Rollins win. Edge is a part-timer. As much as I like Edge, I don't see a lot being accomplished by having him win. That said, this is WWE, so it's almost like that option really doesn't make any sense, so you should go in that direction. I'm going to pick the road less traveled in WWE, and I'm going with Seth Rollins. Of the two, Edge has been a lot more interesting to me lately. Don't get me wrong there, but Rollins has more to gain from winning this match. I think at some point, whether it's before or after Roman gets turns, I think you have to have Seth Rollins at some point to probably feed to Reigns in one way or another. So I'm picking Seth Rollins. I think they're building him up. Goldberg versus Bobby Lashley in a no-holds-barred match. This is one of the few things on Raw that I've actually kept my eye on since SummerSlam. Don't ask me why. If Bobby Lashley still had the WWE Championship around his waist, I would be picking him. Even so, I would be worried that Goldberg would take it from him. Since Lashley doesn't have the title, I think this is an easy win for Goldberg, especially since I believe his son is supposed to be in attendance. So it wouldn't surprise me if that is the case, that he ends up costing Bobby Lashley. There is an interesting story to have where you could accidentally have the son cause his father to lose. We have heard in the past that the Saudi prince, one of the reasons a lot of these old guys are charted out, there's actually not as many of them. Goldberg, wow, okay, unless something changes, Goldberg's really the only one, and I guess sort of Brock Lesnar. But Goldberg's the only old guy there trotting out for this. They've trotted out Kane, The Undertaker, DX, all sorts of people in the past. Anyway, that might even cement it more. I think Goldberg is winning that match. Then we have the SmackDown Women's Championship. Now, this has been a tough one for me until Charlotte Flair Bianca Belair, I guess, technically wins by disqualification on Raw, but Charlotte retains the title, which is the important thing. Now, it does kind of appear that they are keeping Bianca Belair strong by having her kind of win by disqualification. So I believe it was last year they had drafted the tag champs to opposite brands and had them just trade championships on a random episode of Raw or SmackDown. Sasha is SmackDown, and I believe Lynch and Belair both are going to Raw. I'm going to go ahead and pick Bianca Belair. I think it could go either way with them, if Bianca had gotten beat, if she had gotten pinned, I would be going with Lynch. But since she didn't, I'm going with Bianca Belair. That brings us to the WWE title match. Big E and Drew McIntyre. I don't see how you put the WWE title on Drew McIntyre. I really don't. He's been given so many shots this year. I think you keep the title on Big E. Give him at least a few months before you take it off of him. Maybe Drew ends up being the guy. I don't know. This is probably the easiest pick, in my opinion, of the entire night. I'm going with Big E. That brings us to the Universal Championship match. As I'm speaking this sentence right now, I still don't have a pick. So I'm just going to play pick'em here. Reigns versus Lesnar for the Universal Championship. I do believe that... I just realized there's no SmackDown Championship tag title match. Weird. I wonder if the Usos are even gonna be at the pay-per-view. Huh. Interesting. Okay. I think I got my pick then. So a lot could change in the next couple days. There will not be a SmackDown before this pay-per-view. Now there's not even going to be a Raw. They could announce something on their website. I believe they leave for Saudi Arabia either later today, which is Tuesday morning, or really early on Wednesday. I don't remember which exactly. Not important. What is important is that the Usos are not booked for this pay-per-view. I find that interesting. This is the first time I've actually looked forward to a Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar match. And there is a wild card named Paul Heyman. I believe it was either the WWE Twitter page or the WWE on Fox Twitter page that quoted Paul Heyman today saying that he was walking in with the undisputed champion, and he will be walking out with the undisputed champion. Now, regardless of what his plans are, in my opinion, he is obviously saying that to fuck with us. There's been a lot of teases with Lesnar. It's almost too obvious. You would think that WWE would maybe stick with Reigns, stick Heyman with Reigns going forward. God, this one's difficult. My gut says Lesnar. My brain says, why would you take the title off of Reigns right now? If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm going with my gut. I'm going with Lesnar. I'm going with Heyman is going to stab Reigns in the back. I'm doing that not even so much because of my gut. I want to see that because I want those two together. So what that brings us to is the TV running downs. So I got SmackDown here. I don't really have a lot of notes, just the stuff that happened. The show began with a promo from Edge. Edge is usually pretty good at these going home promos when it comes to before pay-per-views. This was no exception in my opinion. This was a pretty good promo heading into Saudi Arabia. We'll get back to that in a second. Finn and Zayn, I kind of already let the cat out of the bag. Maybe I should have covered this before the Saudi Arabia pay-per-view stuff, but this is just the order I usually do things in. Finn obviously got the W there. It was a decent match. There wasn't a lot of mystery with that match. I think a lot of us smart marks know that Sami Zayn, I don't even think is allowed to go over there. After that, we had the Naomi versus Sonya Deville, but wait, there's more. Actually ended up being a handicap match. Shayna Baszler obviously came out, took most of the offense, and Sonya Deville pinned Naomi with 1 foot. It was interesting. I didn't mind this as much as some of the people on the internet did. I'm interested to see where this may or may not go from here. I think Naomi is staying on SmackDown. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is it. Who knows? I know Shayna, obviously, going on. See, the thing about calling this is they've made this really, really strange. They have drafted some people, and so they said that the draft situations weren't being finalized until the Smackdown after Saudi Arabia. So apparently everyone has just been able to allowed to go wherever the hell they want until then. Everyone's name has been Brock Lesnar since the draft happened. So I don't, off the top of my head, remember where the hell Naomi is going. If the Usos are staying on SmackDown, it would make sense to keep her there, which may be why she's headed to Raw. I can't remember, as sad as that is. I'm a podcaster. So if Naomi stays on SmackDown, this will be an interesting story going forward. If she doesn't, whatever. We had Seth Rollins cut a promo. If you've listened to the show through any length of time, you know I have not been impressed with Seth Rollins' promo work as of late. This was no different. Very skippable. Zelina versus Carmella. Not a lot to say. It wasn't a lot different than any other Queen's Crown tournament match we've seen. Zelina Vega picked up the win. We had the Happy Corbin skit after this with I don't even remember the name of the guy that was out there with him. It's not important. It was really fucking stupid. They were laughing at each other's jokes. They weren't funny. It wasn't creative. It was just dumb. And I think Rick Boogs is fucking annoying, and having him and Shinsuke coming out for absolutely no reason except to walk out to the ring and come back to the back is also really stupid, but at least we had a really stupid situation interrupt an enormously stupid situation. So if I had to pick between these really stupid scenarios, I want to see the Asian guy do a weird-ass dance to a 300-pound man playing guitar more than I want to see or hear Baron Corbin on my TV. Next up was the Usos and the Street Profits. Decent tag match, not really a ton to talk about. Usos walked away with the tag titles. Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch. Bianca was at ringside. Now, I have a note here. The backstory with this situation is there was sort of overrun here. I brought up that Tony Khan tweet and the ratings earlier. I guess what I didn't directly say, I should have earlier, is that this was the part of SmackDown that was going head-to-head with Rampage. So this match was commercial-free, as was the CM Punk and Matt Sydal match, which we'll get into a little bit later. There is definitely some debate online. So it only makes sense to compare this match to the CM Punk match. If you're going to make me pick between the two, I'm actually going to go with the CM Punk match. I know some WWE diehards are probably going to be really mad at me. There was nothing wrong with this match. Becky losing, if we're going with WWE old school booking, Becky losing made me think that she was coming out on top at Saudi Arabia. But I also think if you were going to do that, you could have beat Bianca on Monday. I'm still going with Bianca as my pick. I think you get one of the women that are going to Raw. I would think that you have to end up going with one of them. I would think. You would have to go with one of those girls going to Raw to Anyway, sorry, I was just looking at my phone. I'm pretty sure Bianca is headed to Raw, so she's my pick. AEW Rampage. So, the one AEW show I was able to watch in its entirety. I apologize if I seem a little underprepared for some of this. I am just so frustrated with Xfinity right now. Those guys can go suck a dick. So, CM Punk and Matt Sydal. I had some really lengthy notes written out for this, but I just want to run through this really fast and get this over with. This is actually going longer than I thought it would. This was going to be a short podcast. It is not. So the Matt Sydal and CM Punk match, I think this was probably the best match he's had since he came back. It was what you would expect from two guys like this. CM Punk, more of a traditional kind of mat wrestler with a little bit of high-flying throwing in there. Not as much since he's come back. And Matt Sydal, the high-flying expert. The trade-off with the arm bars and the headlocks, and then CM Punk doing the leg takedown and then looking exhausted. I thought that was really well done. Throughout the match, CM Punk looked pretty blowed up. You could see his face turning red. He would get the W, though. CM Punk would end up hitting the go to sleep for the 1-2-3, and I'm fine with this. I know that there is some AEW fans that are crying on the internet right now. CM Punk keeps beating people. I don't know why you would cry for him beating this guy in particular, because an ex-WWE guy just beat an ex-WWE guy. But with all that said, I think they're building Punk up. And I think you keep building Punk up, and then eventually what I would like to see is build Punk up for a few more months, maybe even longer. I would only do it for a few more months. We've got Full Gear coming up. I wouldn't do it then. The pay-per-view after that, I would probably do a callback and have a Darby Allin rematch. And I would have Darby give Punk his first loss in AEW. Originally, I was thinking they would hold out on that a little bit longer. CM Punk has been doing a lot more TV matches than I thought he would, so that's what's made me change my mind about that. Excuse me. We got a promo thing about the Suzuki and Danielson match. I'm not going to get too far into that. I haven't actually watched the buy-in yet. The one thing on YouTube that I could have watched all weekend, I didn't even think to. The Bunny and Ruby Soho. So, Ruby Soho took the W, which isn't that surprising. What was surprising, I have never been a big Bunny fan, or formerly known as Ali from Impact Wrestling. I've never been a big fan of her wrestling. I thought that her matches with Thunder Rosa, God damn it. I thought that her matches and her program with Rosemary was very good in Impact. Since coming to AEW, I haven't been super impressed with a lot that she's done. I believe I mentioned last week or the week before that I had listened to the AEW Unrestricted podcast that she had done and had learned more about her character in that 30 minutes than I have the entire time she's been on TV. That hasn't changed. However, this was definitely the Bunny's best match that I have probably ever seen. Going forward, we will see if that's saying more about Ruby Soho or the Bunny. But really decent match. Even if you're not a fan of the Bunny, I know some people aren't, I would check this out. that brings us to the Inner Circle and the Men of the Year and Junior Dos Santos. So this was a shit show. If you've listened to this podcast for any length of time, you know how I feel about these big-ass multi-man matches. And AEW, and actually Ring of Honor even, is guilty. Both of them are. There's not a ton to talk about here. Dos Santos, he didn't look awful, but he didn't look great. Dan Lambert's guys would end up getting the W. That's all I really have to say about that. Moving on to Ring of Honor TV. We had SOS and Dragon Lee, or SOS versus Dragon Lee and Kenny King. Ton Sinclair, the referee, so there was a spot where after the first break, Khan went to suplex Dragon Lee inside of the ring, and Kenny King grabbed the leg, which obviously Khan tripped. Dragon Lee went to pin him afterwards, and Sinclair wouldn't count the 3. This was a decent match. It wasn't a lot different than the one we got last week. Dragon Lee and Kenny King would retain. It was only 2 matches this week. The following one was CB, Joe Keys, Taylor Rust, and Eli Awesome versus the Foundation. Not a ton of things to talk about I have as far as notes. Again, typical multi-man match. Not going to say a ton about it. So these multi-man matches, I get it. When Ring of Honor does them, they've only got an hour of TV, so I do kind of understand how they cluster usually a bunch of people into one of these matches. You know, if this was a 2-hour show and they had one of these matches, it probably wouldn't bother me as much. For a while, I have told people that one of the reasons I like Ring of Honor so much is because it's only an hour. It's easy to digest, and that's still true. And some of these multi-man matches are very good. I'm getting a little sick of seeing one on every show, though. I know they have some guys. If you look at their roster page, however, it's actually not that big compared to the other companies. Now, obviously, they only have one TV show. They've got a couple YouTube things. I watch week to week and Women's Division Wednesday, not religiously every week. If you haven't, I would check that out. Week by week usually comes on Tuesday. It recaps the previous weekend's TV, and then there's usually a match. And then Women's Division Wednesday, there's usually some promos, and then a women's match. They tend to run anywhere between 20 and 40 minutes. The funny thing about all that is you could take the matches from those 2 programs, take them and put them on the main show, and you would have close to 2 hours with adding in commercials. Anyway, the stuff with Joe Keys and Jonathan Gresham in that match was really good. Jonathan Gresham would end up submitting Joe Keys. Every time these 2 have met, I think Jonathan Gresham has gotten the W. Certainly when both of them have been involved in the fall. I know they had a very good one-on-one match here a few weeks back. I think this is all building to Joe Keys eventually getting a win over Jonathan Gresham. Ring of Honor is pretty good at storytelling like that. Anyway, that's going to do it for this week. I had intended on this to be shorter. That's not really what happened, though. I started trailing off and bitching. I have a tendency to do that when I'm irritated. But that'll do it for this week. Next week, I plan on coming back on Monday like I'm supposed to. My apologies again. Xfinity is Xfinity. If this situation should happen again, I'm a little more prepared for it than I was last week. So I will get Ring of Honor TV review in. I will get Dynamite, and I will get Rampage in. Those three for sure. SmackDown is somewhat at the will of Xfinity. I did get to watch it this past weekend. The way I did that was I did a YouTube TV trial. I don't know if I explained it earlier. The internet worked fine. The TVs were the issue. So I've already canceled the YouTube thing. I don't want an extra $70 added to my bill for no reason. If I absolutely have to, I will pay for a month of Sling TV. I believe it's only $10. And I will do this, and I will, if I have to, I can do the main podcast and then do a part 2 of Ring of Honor since they drop it on their website. Anyway, that'll do it. Thank you for listening. Feel free to leave a comment if whatever app you're on allows you to leave reviews. Apple Podcasts, Good Podcasts, there's a couple other ones. Give it a thumbs up or a star or whatever. Follow the podcast. I'm on Twitter. Got a Facebook page. All that shit. I'll put links in the description. And that'll do it.